So, Mando Season 3 is coming, and this is a small taste. How was it? Well, I'm on record, I'm not the biggest fan of the Grogu plot or even the structure of the story, but for what it's worth, it does finally feel like Grogu looks really natural. It doesn't feel like a special effect, so that was very impressive. I have some questions here about the power levels because he's now very, very powerful, so you wonder, like, how's this going to work with the mythology or tie into the sequel trilogy? But nitpicks aside, this was a pretty excellent trailer. It does what a trailer should do. It gives you just enough to be enticed to want to know further, want to delve a little bit more, but we're still a little vague about what the plot is or what exactly the story is. Because I'm like, where's Bo Katan? Where's Bill Burr? I want answered about where are we going with this. But that's a good thing. And the moments highlighted with some of the old characters and the new characters throughout the seasons I thought were very, very well placed. It does feel like they've learned a few of the lessons from Rise of Skywalker because there, the nostalgia moments and the fan service was so over the top or hammered in such a very sledge like hammer fashion that it just really undermined the basic story. It feels like they've learned the lesson of being balanced. I appreciated the fricks coming in there at the end. That was really fun and silly. And yes, some of the dialogue was a little corny, especially towards the end. This is the Filoni touch. I mean, I get it. He likes the prequels. I like the prequels. It did feel a little bit of the bad part of the prequels where people are just being a little too direct and emotive, but that's fine. And it also did have a bit of a bad prequel moment when we just see all these bright lights in the background that are supposed to be buildings, but it just looks insanely fake. However, for most of the trailer, it looked very, very real. So I really couldn't tell for most of the trailer, is this real? Is this CGI? Is it a mixture? And that's really good because with Kenobi, although I did like the story and don't share the general hatred of the series, that is one place that it was unfortunately very inconsistent. The production design just felt a little slack, and I understand they wanted to use dark cinematography, but at points, it felt like they were being lazy and just using dark cameras, as it were, just to cover up really dodgy CGI. That's not the case here. Things are very bright and dark when necessary, so everything looks crisp. It just looks really much better than even the other seasons, and that's pretty impressive because they poured a lot of money into The Mandalorian. Some of the special effects still felt a little clunky. The creature design felt fine, but could have used more work. Not here. It's all very expertly done, so it just looks amazing. In terms of what we should expect from the story, I would assume we're finally going to get the payoff with the dark saber, the bigger world building with Mandalore, and if you're not familiar, you do need to refresh yourself a little bit from the Clone Wars. The series does give you enough, but again, you will have to go to Wikipedia to understand this a little bit more because the full impact will probably still be a little vague, but they gave you enough. But probably if you want really, why is this so important? You're going to have to go outside the series a little bit. So that is one failing with The Mandalorian, that they do expect you to go a little bit above and beyond the actual TV series. It is what it is. So overall, very strong stuff with the acting, the world building, but I am only going to give it an 8.5 because I am still finding the voice narration just a little jarring. Again, I understand the logic and reasoning behind having just Pedro Pascal do the voice and not actually be the actor. He only does a few scenes actually as the Mandalorian. So it just feels a little weird with that disembodied voice because it just doesn't feel like it's matching up to the actual physical acting of the person actually doing the Mandalorian. It is what it is. It'll always feel a little bit off. That's unfortunate, but I have to be honest. So that feels still a little strange when we're seeing the Mando and the voice acting just doesn't sync up. Pedro Pascal is a great actor, but it always feels a little phony. It's still going to be a work in progress for them to integrate totally the physical atmospheres with more special effects and trying to get the right balance of fake and real in any Star Wars project. This is no exception. This is already really ranking and really the top class because the story and the narrative of the first two seasons was good, but not great. But here I feel they're finally getting it all mixed in together with the right elements, and that's very, very promising. Again, Favreau and Filoni were a little bit all over the place with Book of Boba Fett. I liked the TV series just fine, but definitely felt like they were just leaning on very, very weak nostalgia moments to pull them through a lot of dodgy storytelling. So I'm glad they're not doing that. It feels like the nostalgia is being well placed, we're not coming at any cost of the storytelling. It does feel like we're finally getting things in the right balance. I will say at the very end, Grogu's power levels do seem to be insane. So I don't know how that's going to be figuring out, like what challenges or obstacles they're going to put in the Mando's place, because it seems with Grogu now, they're kind of unstoppable. So I'm going to be curious how they're going to really resolve that. And there we are with the trailer reaction to Mando Season 3. I eagerly expect to be impressed. This is the way.